Tonight, after receiving a ton of backlash, Indiana's governor says he's going to fix the controversial religious freedom law. But will that be enough to calm the critics? So far, the answer is no tonight. Then Governor Andrew Cuomo was in such a big push to pass an on-time budget. But did haste make waste? Also, at the dedication of the Edward Kennedy Institute, President Obama made some comments that are receiving a ton of attention. We will play you the clip and debate whether or not he is right. Good evening and welcome to RFL. Richard French is delayed. I'm Dominic Carter filling in for him. First the fury, now the fix. Indiana Governor Mike Pence today said he wants the legislature to amend the controversial religious freedom law that is causing such an uproar.
I think it would be helpful, and I'd like to see on my desk before the end of this week legislation that is added to the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in Indiana that makes it clear that this law does not give businesses a right to deny services to anyone.
Despite the comments of Pence today, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo just announced he's banning state employees from making all non-essential travel to Indiana. New York joins Washington State and Connecticut in prohibiting state-funded trips there. Many businesses are also taking action. Angie's List announced it is canceling plans to expand in Indiana. That is just one of many businesses pulling back in that state. Indiana is also taking all the heat, but get this, 19 other states have laws similar to Indiana's. And just today, the legislature in Arkansas joined the group and passed a religious freedom law. And this is also an issue in the 2016 race for the White House, as top GOP hopefuls Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Scott Walker, and Ted Cruz all voiced support for the law. And bear in mind, they also said they supported it before Governor Pence said that he would fix it. All right, let's bring in our panel tonight. Richard Brodsky is a former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and a professor at NYU. And we are also joined tonight by C. Scott Vanderhoff. He's an attorney and former Rockland County executive. So nice to see you guys tonight, a little bit of a different role.
He's a Republican.
And
you called me a Democrat.
Okay, all right, a Republican.
All right.
Okay, all right.
That's
so,
fair. That's fair.
That's fair? Okay, so we're all on the same page. I will start with you tonight, Mr. Republican, as I've just been told. From your point of view, what is this all about? And is this controversy something that should be taking place?
Well, I think it should. And I think Governor Pence did not have a very good legal staff. They did not read this particular law. This law differs. It's a great article. You may have seen it. You wrote an article, Richard, I know, but there's a great article in the Washington Post about this. And it distinguishes how this was written, drafted, as compared to the federal law, which is similar in some cases. And they didn't do a very good job. And if you read it carefully, and if you read through it, it basically says you can discriminate, and it does say you can discriminate, not directly, against sexual orientation. And Indiana does not have, like many states, a sexual orientation discrimination clause, a specialized class. So I think the uproar is legitimate. On the other hand, you know, for people like Andrew Cuomo to suggest that we shouldn't go there because of this, when he's going to Cuba, where the sexual orientation, of course, is not recognized in any way, is kind of outlandish. But there is a real issue here, and I think, just one final point, I think the Republican candidates running for president didn't read it either.
Yeah, I agree with the legal analysis, but I read the statute and I read the process. The Indiana legislature considered this very carefully. They had testimony from 12 law professors. This was done very precisely, and it does exactly what Scott says it does. Now, the Republican Party, again, the presidential candidates, are caught between their whacked out Tea Party wing and reasonable people who are Republicans. The piece I did in HuffPost, which you referenced.
And we're going to quote it in just one second.
I tend not to trend, if that's the expression. 8 people read my stuff, sometimes 800. I got 2,500 likes. I got 500 comments, a lot of them nutty from all sides. This has hit a nerve, and the reason why is how this differs. It is one thing to have a law that says to a church, a Catholic church, you don't have to marry gay people, or to an Orthodox shul or a mosque, you don't have to hire women as your religious leaders, and that's not discrimination. What this law did is it extended it to businesses, to corporations. It's as though a corporation can have a religion. Now, once you do that, you run into a historic sense that in your church, in your home, do whatever you want. In commerce, in trade, in interstate commerce, in intrastate commerce, you got to be fair. And that's the heart of what's going on. And that's why the other guys are going to lose.
It's interesting, Dominic, just to add on to that, it goes farther because, in fact, there's a court case that says if there's a substantial number of people who own the business and for religious reasons, what's the name of the case?
Hobby Lobby.
The Hobby Lobby case. This takes it out of that and allows any corporation, I think, with even a minor interest, to be able to object.
Okay, but let me do this because you wrote a great piece, as you just mentioned in the Huffington Post. And Richard, let's go ahead and take a look at this, in which I am quoting what you had to say in your piece. Anti-gay bias and intent to discriminate are itself reasons to oppose the new law, but there's much more at stake. The organized right is rewriting the Constitution, and the impact will not be limited to gay Americans.
That's the commerce issue I'm talking about. Since the New Deal, when the Commerce Clause of the Constitution was used, for example, to justify the civil rights laws, the civil rights laws of the United States aren't based on some moral principle. They're based upon a congressional finding that commerce is burdened when you discriminate. We've cured that for African Americans, for people of color, sort of cured it for women, but we haven't cured it for sexual minorities. And what the Indiana law does and these other laws does is it creeps through that little hole in the doctrine and undoes the progress we made in Commerce Clause application in the New Deal. That's the rewriting of the Constitution that puts everybody in danger. Suppose someone who believes the Catholic Church is the spawn of Satan, and there are such people, says, I don't want to deal with Catholics when they come into my hardware store. Or a corporation does it. Walmart, which wouldn't do such a thing, I don't think, says we're not serving Catholics or Muslims or Jews. If you open the door to gay marriage, to people not having to bake cakes for a gay marriage, in walks all kinds of bigotry.
Well, Mr. Vanderhoff, the Governor Pence, has said he's going to fix this, as you know. Is it fixable, and is this something that can still be done and not be so offensive and if you will, so outrageous as it relates to gay people?
I think it can be, but I don't know if he knows how to do it. Now, I disagree with Richard in this sense. I don't see this as, the right-wing conspiracy that the left often talks about. But I do see it as an attempt to try to discriminate against sexual orientation, the issue of gay marriage. And the way he can fix this, I think, is to simply pass the law.
But wait a minute. This is the year 2015. Why would anybody in their right mind, wouldn't that amount to being the third rail of politics? Why would you want to discriminate against another group? I understand red meat for the base and so on, but why would anybody in their right mind want to do something like this?
That's why I say I don't think his legal advisors even read the thing. I think they assumed it was the same as every other law, and it's not.
I can come up with a way to make that argument. Not that I fully believe it. But the argument is, I have a religious objection to gay marriage.
To what?
To gay marriage. I have a religious objection, not a political objection.
Right, now I understand you're arguing the other point, but an objection to treating people with respect in public?
No, I'll treat them with respect, but I don't want to be hired in my professional capacity to engage in behaviors that I object to religiously. That's how it's phrased. And if you phrase it about an individual, we can argue about it. But when you say a business can do it, you rewrite the Constitution.
Okay, gentlemen, hold. We'll continue in just 1 second. What we're going to do now is turn this over to you. Our online question is all about this controversial law in Indiana. Head to Facebook and Twitter to sound off on today's question. Is the new Indiana law more about religious freedom or discrimination against gays? Up next, we will look at some New York stories, including a look at the budget and whether in his haste to finish it on time, Governor Cuomo sacrificed possibly too much. And Richard French will join us right after this block. Stay with us.